Hello again, everyone. This is a continuation of the video, The Clause Family, Part 1. And we've already talked about simple sentences and compound sentences. And a simple sentence is made up of a subject and a verb. And a compound sentence is made up of two independent clauses, two simple sentences, with a coordinating conjunction, our fanboy, connecting those two thoughts into one complete sentence. So today we're going to talk about complex sentences. A complex sentence is one dependent clause plus one independent clause, and they can go in either order. You can put the dependent clause in the front or the independent clause in the front, whatever you would like to do. So we've got dependent Danny, our crazy-haired boy who likes to skateboard. And we have independent Ivan, our dad that goes out to work. And he is independent because he's the one making the money. He can stand on his own, do his thing. All right, so we need to put a dependent clause with one independent clause in order to make our complex sentence. So let's talk about this. I'm going to put Danny at the beginning of the sentence. And I'm going to say, while Danny was skateboarding, Ivan was at work. Poor Ivan. Okay, that's a period. Okay, I'm going to color code. Danny is dependent while Danny was skateboarding. You can't leave that by itself, which is why it is dependent. It has to have another part of a sentence in order for it to work. So while Danny was skateboarding, Ivan was at work. Simple sentence. Ivan's our subject. Was at work is our verb phrase. Okay? If I were to take off the word while, I could say Danny was skateboarding. That is an independent clause, but because I have the word while in front of it, and that's a subordinating conjunction, it is a dependent clause. Cannot stand alone. Sounds totally weird if you say it. While Danny was skateboarding, and you're kind of left hanging. You want to know what happens next, right? So I used the word while, and I said it was a subordinating conjunction. So I have this really cool acronym. It's called NAWOOBIS. It's so much fun to say. AWOOBIS. This acronym stands for the 10 most popular subordinating conjunctions. If you use these words at the beginning of a sentence, you have to use a comma at the end of that dependent clause. A subordinating conjunction at the beginning of a sentence makes that clause dependent. Okay? So I used the word while. And you'll notice when we go back that I used a comma at the end of Danny's clause. In this sentence that I have written here, when a subordinating conjunction is used at the beginning of a dependent clause that starts a complex sentence, comma, the dependent clause is always followed by a comma. So here's my when. So our AWOOBIS words are after, although, as, while, when, until, before, because, if, and since. When a sentence starts with a dependent clause with a subordinating conjunction, you have to put a comma after that dependent clause. So we're back at our sentence, and I want to point out our subordinating conjunction. Here's my subordinating conjunction, while Danny was skateboarding, comma, Ivan was at work. So because I have an AWOOBIS word at the beginning of my sentence, have to use that comma. Super duper duper important. Now, if I were to write it in a completely different order, and I was to write it in the opposite direction, Ivan was at work while Danny was skateboarding. I'm running out of room. All right, but you get the idea. There is a period there, just didn't register on the board. Ivan was at work is our independent clause that starts the sentence. If I start a complex sentence with an independent clause, you don't have to use a comma. Okay, so let me mark up my awoobis word, but it's in the middle of the sentence, so no comma required. And then while Danny was skateboarding is our dependent clause. You can put them in either order. Ivan can come first or Danny can come first, but if Danny comes first, you gotta have the comma. Our final type of sentence is a compound complex sentence. Now this is a combination of dependent clauses and independent clauses. And so this is where Imogen is going to come into play. We're going to use 2 independent clauses and 1 dependent clause. So Danny is our dependent clause. He has to rely on Imogen and Ivan in order for this sentence to work. So let's start with Danny. So Danny, as we know, crazy hair. Oops, he's got a rather large eye there too. He likes to skateboard, doesn't have a care in the world, relies on his parents for everything. Our independent clauses, we're going to have independent Ivan, dude that likes to go to work, and his wife, Imogen, who is an independent young lady who likes to spend all of that hard-earned money. Okay, so combination of dependent clauses, we're going to have 1, and independent clauses, we're going to have 2. All right, so dependent clause. As Danny was skateboarding, oops, forgot the K, skateboarding, I'm going to put a comma because I started with an awoobis word. As Danny was skateboarding, Ivan was at work and Imogen was at the mall. Now, I've used a fanboy, and so what do I need to put with my fanboy? I need a comma. I'm going to put my comma in orange. I'm going to circle my fanboy because I know those go together. I'm also going to highlight with purple my awoobis word. Now I'm going to color coordinate my independent clauses and my dependent clauses. I'm going to start with my independent clauses. Ivan was at work. Imogen was at the mall. And Danny, dependent, we got to include our awoobis word. As Danny was skateboarding. And we've got our comma. It goes with our awoobis word. And I'm going to circle it to show that it goes with our subordinating conjunction. Finally, just like the complex sentence, these can go in any order that you want. You could start with Imogen was at the mall and Ivan was at work as Danny was skateboarding. You could say Ivan was at work as Danny was skateboarding and Imogen was at the mall. You can do them in any combination you want as long as you remember when the dependent clause comes at the very, very beginning with an awoobis involved, you have to put a comma after it. Happy sentence writing, everybody!